Good morning. And when I say morning, I mean it's morning. But it's a good one. Today we're going to work on another step in the string quilt process. I had several people ask me if I would continue it to the next step to show how to put the blocks together. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to put some blocks together and show you the extension of the quilt and how it comes together. Here are the squares that we had already sewn together. And I've made mine 6 blocks wide. You can make yours as wide or as thin as you want. You could turn this into a hot pad. You could make it a small wall hanging. You could make it a king size quilt. It's up to you what you want to do with it. So the ideas are limitless, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 6 blocks wide. And I've got some more blocks here. So I'm going to take this and lay it to the side for now. And I'm going to take these blocks and I'm going to sew them together just like we would for the next row of the quilt. So we're going to form these, if you can see them in the camera, we're going to form these triangles in the corner into a square. So you'll place them like that, and you'll just take 2, flip them right sides together, and you'll see that I used blue thread on this one. It doesn't matter the color of thread because you're never going to see that thread. Then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine. Let me turn you over here so you can see it. And we're going to take this and do a 1/4 inch seam down this side of the block. You can pin it if you like. I don't pin it, but if you're new to this, you may want to pin it just for ease of mind. There I've got my first 2 blocks done. Let me move you back over here, sorry. So see, I've got my triangles forming here. So I'm going to continue and I'm going to sew the rest of these together to make a whole different row, and then we'll come back and we'll sew the next row together. I'm back and I've got my squares sewn together in my row of 6 blocks now. So I'm ready to attach this row to the quilt we've already made. The rest of the quilt top we've already made. We haven't finished it yet. But also, I need to remind you that before you sew them together, if you'll remember in the last video, we squared them up. So you take all your blocks, when you finish making all your blocks for your quilt, you take them, you stack them up, you measure them all. These were 10-inch blocks. So they should all measure 10-inch blocks. If they don't, let's say the smallest one in your stack of blocks is 9.75. Then you need to make all your blocks 9.75. The size itself does not really matter as long as they're all the same. You're going to want them all to be the same so that they line up for the sewing together process. So make sure you measure them and they're all the same size. Then you sew them together in these strips, and then we're going to sew this strip to the quilt. The next step I want to show you is how to attach what you've already sewn together to the new row that you're going to be attaching. You're going to line it up just like it will look when it's sewed together. You're going to have the squares over here that form like they're supposed to. You're going to take this seam and this seam, flip it up on top of each other, and then take these seams and line this seam to this seam. So you're going to take that seam and just lay them on top of each other, roll it down until you get to the top. Then you're going to pin it, and I do my seams open on this one. I'm going to grab a pin, if I can grab a pin, and I'm going to pin that together. Then I'm going to put a pin on the end too, just so it doesn't flop. And I'm going to do this all the way down the quilt. I'm going to go to the next seam. There's my seam. There's my seam. I'm going to line those seams up, roll it till I get to the end of it. Open that seam. That seam's already open on the other side because we've pressed it. Then we're going to pin it. And we're going to do this all the way down this strip. So let me do that and I'll be right back with you. We've now got our entire row pinned together like we just showed you. We're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance down this strip. I'm not pulling it through, I'm just guiding it so that it stays straight and on that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Take those pins out as I get to them. Some people roll over the pins, and I've done that, but I prefer to take them out when I can. So I'm going to do this all the way down this seam till I get to the end, and then we'll be back. We have completed the sewing the strips together now. The next step would be to take it to the ironing board. So here we are at the ironing board. We've got the first 2 rows, here's the back of it. The first 2 rows we sewed together, and then we opened them up and ironed along these seams to make them flat. So that's what we're going to do with this last row that we just attached. We're going to take it and lay it across the ironing board. We've got our iron hot, and we're going to open up that seam, which is a job in itself. But we're going to open up that seam, and we're just going to iron down it. Now this process might take a few minutes, but what takes a few minutes now saves a lot of minutes down the road. Quilting, this makes it a lot easier, a lot flatter, and a lot prettier. So you don't want to skip this process. It may take a minute, but you don't want to miss it. So flatten this out. Go all the way down. And then we're going to come back and we're going to go this way. So we're going to iron this way. We're going to come back and iron this way. Now we've already pressed all these seams except for this one. So we're going to press this one to show you what we're talking about here. We're going to press it open with our fingers. We're going to take the iron. We're going to press a little bit, open a little more, press it again. I should have gotten out my little iron. It's a whole lot easier if you have a smaller iron than this big one for this tiny little project. But this one was out. I'd already gotten it hot before I thought about it, so I just let it go. And it'll work fine. It's just the smaller ones work better for this. So I'm going to press it all the way up. Press ahead with your fingers and then go all the way up. And there you have it. All your seams are now pressed open. If this seam is bulky and big and stands up above the others, then you'll want to clip just a little bit in each side to kind of make it lay down a little bit better. But mine are fine, so we are good. And that's it. That's how you attach a row. And now we've got 3 rows up. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to keep going until we've decided that it's big enough for what we want to do with it. So there you have it. That's how you attach rows. And we'll keep going with this and attach more rows. And we'll show you down the road what it looks like after that point. But for right now, this is where we're at. These are the steps you do. And we're not too far from having a quilt completed. So they're not hard. Actually, they're fun and they're interesting and they're unique. And they use up a lot of scraps, which is the #1 key for this project. You guys have a great day. Come back and see us for other videos. Like our videos and subscribe to our channel if you don't mind. It means the world to us. So if you don't mind, please don't forget that. And you guys have a great day.